What happens when the internet's biggest philanthropist, the king of viral generosity, walks into late-night television's most polished stage, and walks out before the cameras stop rolling? The lights inside Studio 6B glow warm and golden, reflecting off polished floors and the gleaming skyline backdrop behind the desk of The Tonight Show. The air carries that familiar buzz, a mix of stage heat, perfume, nervous anticipation, and a faint hum of expensive production equipment working overtime. The band's instruments rest quietly, catching flickers of light as audience members settle into their seats, whispering excitedly. At exactly 5:42 p.m., the applause sign flashes once. A low ripple of clapping fills the room. Producers move swiftly behind the cameras, their headsets crackling with final cues. The energy feels electric but controlled, the kind of energy that promises something memorable. Because tonight's guest isn't just another celebrity promoting a movie. Tonight, it's MrBeast. When Jimmy Fallon steps out from behind the curtain, the crowd erupts into applause. He does his usual wave, that familiar grin stretched across his face, playful and energetic. The band hits a bright intro sting, and the cameras glide into position. "And we have an incredible guest tonight," Jimmy says, voice animated, leaning slightly over his desk. "He's changed YouTube forever. He's given away houses, islands, millions of dollars. Please welcome MrBeast." The crowd explodes. Jimmy Donaldson, MrBeast himself, walks onto the stage wearing a simple hoodie, clean sneakers, and that relaxed half-smile that millions recognize instantly. He waves casually, shoulders slightly hunched, as if he's still not used to rooms this loud. His eyes scan the audience with curiosity rather than ego. He shakes Jimmy's hand. The handshake lingers a fraction longer than usual, two creators from different eras of entertainment meeting in the center of the spotlight. They sit. For the first few minutes, everything feels smooth. Jimmy jokes about insane challenge videos. MrBeast laughs politely. They talk about giving away private jets, about massive productions, about how YouTube has changed the game. The audience reacts warmly, laughter rolling across the studio in steady waves. But then something shifts. It's subtle at first, a tone adjustment, a slight narrowing of eyes. Jimmy leans back in his chair, fingers tapping the desk. "So, you've given away what, hundreds of millions at this point?" he asks, tilting his head. "Yeah," MrBeast replies casually. "We reinvest pretty much everything back into videos." Jimmy chuckles, but there's an edge. Right. But some critics say it's, well, a little exploitative. You know, filming people at their lowest moments for views. A murmur ripples faintly through the audience. MrBeast's smile doesn't disappear. But it tightens. He shifts slightly in his seat. His fingers lace together in his lap. His voice stays calm. "I mean, we help people. We cure blindness. We build homes. We plant trees. We try to make it entertaining so it reaches more people." Jimmy nods slowly, but his expression changes, less playful now, more probing. "Sure. But do you ever think the camera being there changes the authenticity of it? That maybe it becomes more about content than compassion?" The temperature in the room feels like it drops by a degree. MrBeast's jaw flexes subtly. For a brief second, his eyes flicker, not with anger, but calculation. He's been interviewed hundreds of times. He knows this rhythm. He knows when a question is innocent, and when it's bait. Without the content, he says carefully, we wouldn't have the money to help anyone. It's a cycle. The videos fund the impact. The audience claps lightly, supportive. Jimmy smiles, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. Right, but critics argue that it turns generosity into spectacle. There it is. The word spectacle hangs in the air like smoke. MrBeast leans back now, mirroring Jimmy's posture. His voice drops slightly lower. Helping people at scale requires attention. Attention requires storytelling. If you don't tell the story, nobody funds the next one. The band members glance at each other. The energy has shifted. Jimmy laughs, but the laugh is thinner now. But do you think sometimes it crosses a line? Like, are we rewarding poverty with a prize wheel? A few audience members gasp softly. MrBeast's smile vanishes completely. For the first time since he sat down, his shoulders stiffen. He blinks once. You think that's what we're doing? He asks quietly. Jimmy shrugs lightly, playing it off. I'm just asking what people online are saying. But the studio doesn't feel playful anymore. The cameras zoom slightly tighter. Producers exchange glances in the control room. MrBeast exhales slowly. His hands unclasp. We've spent years building systems that actually help long-term, he says. We don't just hand someone money and leave. We follow up. We create infrastructure. We partner with organizations. Jimmy nods again. Sure, but some say it's branding generosity. There's a pause. A long one. You can almost hear the faint hum of the studio lights overhead. MrBeast tilts his head, studying Jimmy's expression as if trying to decide whether this is comedy, or something else. Everything on television is branding, he says calmly. This show is branding. A sharp inhale ripples through the audience. Jimmy blinks. The tension spikes, but Jimmy smiles again, leaning forward. Hey, I'm not attacking you. I just think it's an interesting conversation. MrBeast nods slowly. Yeah, he replies. It is. But something in his tone has changed. The friendly warmth from earlier has cooled into something firmer. Jimmy shuffles his cue cards. And some people say, Jimmy continues carefully, that you profit more from the spectacle than the people you help. There's a flicker in MrBeast's eyes now, not anger, not yet, but something protective. You know how much we give away, he asks. Jimmy shrugs. That's what you say. The words land heavier than Jimmy probably intended. MrBeast freezes for half a second. That's what we document, he says quietly. The audience grows silent. You can feel it, that thin line between playful banter and something more serious has just been crossed. Jimmy tries to pivot with a half smile. So are you saying the critics are just wrong? MrBeast looks at him steadily. I'm saying if you're going to question someone's intent, you better understand the work. The studio air feels tight now. Almost brittle. Jimmy laughs awkwardly. Well, this got intense. But MrBeast isn't laughing. And for the first time in the show's history, the energy inside Studio 6B doesn't feel controlled. It feels unpredictable. Jimmy glances toward the camera, then back at his guest. So, he says, trying to lighten it, would you ever do a challenge where someone has to survive being interviewed by me? The joke lands flat. MrBeast stares at him for a long second. And then, softly, almost too softly for the audience to process, you're not joking though. The words hang there. The band is completely silent. The cameras stay locked in close. And somewhere behind the curtain, a producer whispers urgently into a headset. Because something is about to break. And nobody in that studio is prepared for what happens next. The silence doesn't fade. It expands. You can almost feel it spreading through Studio 6B like a slow-moving fog, thick, heavy, pressing against every light fixture and camera lens. The applause sign remains dark. No one dares to clap. The band members sit motionless, hands hovering near instruments they suddenly don't want to touch. MrBeast's words linger in the air. You're not joking though. Jimmy Fallon's smile freezes, not fully gone, but strained at the edges. His fingers tap against the cue cards, then stop. He clears his throat lightly, the sound sharper than usual in the quiet. Hey, Jimmy says, leaning back, trying to soften the moment. We're just having a conversation. That's what we do here. MrBeast doesn't look away. His posture is different now, straighter, grounded, steady. The casual YouTube hoodie suddenly feels less like a comfort piece and more like armor. Yeah, he replies. But there's a difference between a conversation and implying someone profits off suffering. The audience shifts in their seats. A few murmurs ripple through the front rows. Jimmy laughs again, a quick, nervous sound. No, I'm not implying that. I'm just bringing up what critics say. It's part of the discussion. But you said, that's what you say, MrBeast responds calmly. His voice is even, but the calm feels deliberate. Controlled. That's not quoting critics. That's questioning integrity. A producer's voice crackles in Jimmy's earpiece. His eyes flicker slightly to the side. He nods almost imperceptibly, a reflex. Look, Jimmy continues, leaning forward now. You're one of the most powerful creators on the planet. When someone has that much influence, it's fair to ask hard questions. And I'm answering them, MrBeast replies. But don't frame it like I'm making up numbers. The tension sharpens. The cameras push in closer. The big screen behind them glows faintly blue, illuminating the edges of their faces. The warmth of the studio lights now feels almost suffocating. Jimmy's jaw tightens just slightly. Nobody's saying you're making up numbers. You just did, MrBeast says quietly. The room reacts with a soft, collective inhale. Jimmy sets the cue cards down completely now. His hands flatten against the desk. Okay, he says, tone shifting, less playful, more firm. Let's be real. There are people who believe that when you turn charity into entertainment, you risk turning real human struggle into a storyline. That's not crazy to ask about. MrBeast nods once. Slowly. Then ask it that way. The words are calm, but they carry weight. Jimmy's eyes narrow just a fraction. So you feel attacked? MrBeast pauses. The pause stretches longer than television etiquette allows. He glances briefly at the audience, then back at Jimmy. I feel like you're trying to get a viral clip, he says. The audience reacts audibly now, whispers, scattered gasps. Jimmy's eyebrows lift. That's ironic. MrBeast tilts his head slightly. Is it? A beat. Jimmy leans back again, crossing his arms loosely, a defensive posture masked as casual. You built your entire empire on viral clips. And on helping people, MrBeast counters immediately. Jimmy nods. Sure. But you monetize the moment. So does this show, MrBeast replies without hesitation. The words land harder this time. The band leader glances toward the control room. A stagehand near the curtain looks frozen. Jimmy's smile fades completely now. You're comparing what you do to what we do here. I'm comparing content to content, MrBeast says evenly. We both tell stories. We both use cameras. The difference is, I'm transparent about the business model. The audience murmurs again. Jimmy's voice drops slightly. Are you saying we're not transparent? MrBeast exhales through his nose, not angry, but frustrated. I'm saying if you're going to question someone's motives, be clear about your own. There it is. The temperature in the room feels 10 degrees colder. Jimmy leans forward, elbows on the desk. My motive is to ask questions. And mine is to build systems that help people long-term, MrBeast replies. But you keep framing it like I spin a wheel and laugh at poverty. Jimmy shakes his head quickly. That's not what I said. You said rewarding poverty with a prize wheel. Jimmy opens his mouth, then closes it. For a split second, he realizes how it sounded. The audience can see it too. A flicker of regret crosses his face, but pride follows close behind. Okay, Jimmy says slowly. Maybe that phrasing was strong. Strong. MrBeast repeats, his voice firmer now. You're talking about people's lives. The band remains still. No music. No safety net. Jimmy's tone shifts again, defensive, sharper. And you're broadcasting those lives to millions. A murmur rises again. MrBeast leans back now, folding his hands together. His jaw tightens. Yes, he says. So we can help millions more. Jimmy shakes his head slightly. Or so you can get millions more views. That's the line. The invisible boundary snaps. MrBeast's expression changes entirely. Not explosive. Not loud. But resolute. You know how much money I've reinvested into infrastructure projects, he asks quietly. You know how many water wells we've built. How many surgeries we've funded. Jimmy doesn't answer. You think I need to film someone to make money? MrBeast continues. I could sit in a room and react to TikToks and make millions. But I don't. The audience breaks into light applause, hesitant but growing. Jimmy raises a hand, trying to regain control. No one's denying you've helped people. I'm questioning the model. And I'm answering you, MrBeast replies. But you're not listening. A producer stands up in the control room now. Jimmy's voice sharpens. I am listening. I just don't think scale excuses spectacle. MrBeast's eyes lock onto him. And I don't think comedy excuses disrespect. The words cut clean. The audience gasps. Jimmy's face flushes slightly under the studio lights. Disrespect, he repeats. Yes, MrBeast says, standing slowly from his chair. The movement is calm, but it sends shockwaves through the room. A few audience members instinctively clap, unsure whether this is part of the show. Jimmy stands halfway, startled. Whoa, what are you doing? MrBeast looks down at him, not angrily, but firmly. You wanted a real conversation, he says. But you're not actually having one. Jimmy gestures toward the chair. Sit down. We're talking. No, MrBeast replies quietly. You went too far. The words land like a dropped microphone, even though no mic has fallen. The studio is frozen. You don't get to imply I exploit people for views and then laugh it off, MrBeast continues. That's not a joke. Jimmy's expression shifts, irritation mixing with disbelief. You're walking out over a debate. I'm walking out over framing, MrBeast says. He turns slightly toward the audience. Helping people shouldn't be reduced to a punchline. There's scattered applause now, uncertain, conflicted. Jimmy steps out from behind the desk. This is live to tape, he says quietly, urgency in his voice. We can edit. MrBeast shakes his head. It's not about editing. The tension in the room feels like it might crack the glass panels behind them. Jimmy lowers his voice. You're overreacting. MrBeast pauses mid-step. Slowly, he turns back. His eyes are steady. Unblinking. No, he says calmly. I'm setting a boundary. The room holds its breath. Jimmy stares at him. And for the first time in years, The Tonight Show doesn't feel like a controlled stage. It feels like a battlefield of reputation, pride, and principle. MrBeast takes another step toward the curtain. The band members look down. A producer rushes closer to the stage, whispering urgently. Jimmy's voice follows him. Jimmy, but MrBeast doesn't stop. His hand reaches the curtain. And just before he disappears backstage, he turns one last time. What he says next will explode across the internet within minutes. MrBeast's hand grips the edge of the curtain. The thick velvet fabric bunches slightly in his fingers, stage lights casting a sharp outline around his silhouette. For a split second, the entire studio seems suspended in time, cameras frozen mid-zoom, the audience locked in half-breath, Jimmy Fallon standing a few feet away with his mouth slightly open. And then MrBeast turns. The movement is slow, deliberate. His face isn't angry. It's disappointed. And somehow, that's worse. "You have a massive platform," he says, voice steady but resonating through the studio's expensive acoustics. "So do I. When we talk about people who are struggling, we owe them more than a punchline." The audience is completely silent now. Not even a cough. Not even a shuffle of fabric. Jimmy's expression hardens slightly, defensive instinct rising. "It wasn't a punchline. It felt like one," MrBeast replies. "And that matters. There's no shouting. No chaos. No thrown microphones. Just tension, thick, heavy, undeniable." Jimmy steps forward, lowering his voice, trying to pull the moment back under control. "You're twisting what I said." MrBeast shakes his head slowly. "No. I'm reacting to how you said it." The studio lights hum overhead. The skyline backdrop glows artificially serene behind them, New York's image frozen in permanent night. A producer edges closer near the band area, whispering into a headset with urgency now bordering on panic. Jimmy exhales through his nose, hands on his hips. "So what, you're going to walk off because I challenged you?" MrBeast holds his gaze. "I'll take challenges all day," he says. "But don't question whether I care about the people I help." There's a tremor in the audience, subtle applause beginning in the back rows, uncertain but growing. Jimmy hears it. His jaw tightens. "This isn't about whether you care," he says firmly. "It's about how influence works. And I've built that influence to do something good," MrBeast responds. "Not to farm trauma." The word trauma hits differently. You can feel it ripple. Jimmy glances briefly toward the camera, a reflex developed over years of live television. But the camera doesn't rescue him this time. It only magnifies everything. He laughs softly, but there's no humor in it. "You built your career on extremes." "I built my career on reinvestment," MrBeast counters immediately. "Every dollar goes back into something bigger." "And you benefit from it," Jimmy presses. "Yes," MrBeast says plainly. "Because that's how businesses work. But so do the people we help." That lands. Harder than anything before. Jimmy hesitates for just a second too long. The audience sees it. The balance of energy in the room shifts subtly, like a scale tipping millimeter by millimeter. MrBeast takes a small step closer to center stage again, not retreating now. "You know what the difference is," he continues, voice calm but intense. "When someone leaves one of my videos, their life is changed." Jimmy crosses his arms again, a subconscious barrier. "And when someone leaves here?" Jimmy asks quietly. "They go home entertained," MrBeast says. "Which is fine. That's valuable too. But don't pretend we're playing the same game." The crowd reacts, a few claps, quickly hushed. Jimmy's face flushes under the lights. "You're being condescending," he says. MrBeast tilts his head. "No," he replies. "I'm being honest." The words hang in the air like a struck bell. A producer finally steps to the edge of the stage, gesturing subtly, "Wrap it up." Jimmy notices. His shoulders stiffen. "So this is it?" Jimmy asks. "You walk out and make this a statement?" MrBeast considers the question. For a brief moment, his expression softens. You can see the internal debate flicker across his face. He knows this clip will explode online. He knows millions will dissect every frame. But that's not what's driving him. "I didn't come here to fight," he says quietly. "I came here to talk about impact." Jimmy's voice drops lower. "And we were." MrBeast shakes his head. "We were debating whether impact is real." Silence again. The band members stare at the floor. A few audience members exchange looks, some supportive, some uncomfortable. Jimmy steps forward one last time. You could have stayed and finished the conversation. MrBeast meets his eyes directly. I am finishing it. The simplicity of the statement makes it heavier. Jimmy swallows. You think I went too far? Yes, MrBeast answers immediately. No hesitation. No theatrics. The directness is almost shocking. Jimmy looks at him for a long moment, and for the first time all night, there's no joke, no deflection, no late-night grin to hide behind. Just two creators, standing in the spotlight. You know, Jimmy says finally, voice quieter, this show has always pushed guests. And that's fine, MrBeast replies. But pushing and implying aren't the same thing. Another beat. The studio feels smaller now. The bright lights feel harsher. Jimmy glances at the audience, at the faces watching him, waiting for him to regain control. But control isn't something you can always reclaim once it slips. MrBeast steps backward toward the curtain again. I respect what you've built, he says. But respect goes both ways. Jimmy doesn't answer. And this time, when MrBeast turns toward the exit, no one tries to stop him. He parts the curtain and disappears backstage. The fabric falls closed. The sound echoes louder than it should. Studio 6B remains frozen. Jimmy stands alone in the spotlight. The audience looks unsure whether to clap. A few scattered hands begin, then stop. Jimmy inhales deeply, running a hand through his hair. Well, he says softly, attempting composure. That was unexpected. A few nervous laughs. But the energy is gone. The band doesn't play immediately. The cue cards sit abandoned on the desk. Producers scramble silently. Jimmy forces a smile toward the camera. We'll be right back. The screen would normally cut to commercial with upbeat music. But the silence lingers just a fraction too long. Backstage, MrBeast walks down the dim hallway, the bright stage lights fading behind him. His footsteps echo against concrete walls. Staff members stand aside, stunned, unsure whether to speak. He doesn't look triumphant. He doesn't look angry. He looks steady. Grounded. Outside, the cool New York air hits his face as security opens a side door. The city noise hums, taxis, distant sirens, life moving on without caring about studio drama. He exhales slowly. In his pocket, his phone vibrates endlessly. Notifications. Flooding in. Clips already spreading. But he doesn't check. Not yet. Because for him, this wasn't about virality. It was about a line. And inside Studio 6B, that line had been crossed. The next morning, headlines will explode. Social media will fracture into sides. Think pieces will dissect every word. But in that moment, under the harsh glare of television lights, it wasn't about algorithms or ratings. It was about dignity. And sometimes, the most powerful statement isn't something you shout. It's something you walk away from. If you stayed until the end of this explosive breakdown, you just witnessed one of the most intense moments late-night television has seen in years. What do you think? Did Jimmy Fallon push too far? Or did MrBeast overreact? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over. If you enjoy deep dives into dramatic showdowns like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to see how quickly a late-night interview can turn into a cultural moment. Because sometimes, the biggest moments on television aren't scripted. And this was one of them.